Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to dive into a topic that affects many around the world. I'm talking about obsessive-compulsive disorder, specifically the fear of germs, also known as contamination OCD. If you've ever found yourself washing your hands repeatedly, using sanitizer constantly, avoiding public areas, or feeling overwhelmed by the thought of germs, this video is for you. Let's start with what OCD is. OCD stands for obsessive-compulsive disorder, and it is a mental health condition where a person experiences obsessive thoughts and fears. These fears triggers them to engage in repetitive behaviors with the intention of getting rid of the anxiety if they perform a specific behavior. Someone experiencing contamination fears engages in certain behaviors like hand washing because they feel by doing this, it lowers their anxiety and it prevents them from catching anything. Contamination OCD is having a deep fear of germs and getting sick. A person who has contamination OCD might wash and sanitize their hands dozens of times per day, change their clothes and shower immediately after coming from public, and avoid any close contact with others, such as shaking hands or hugging. They have frequent thoughts of catching viruses after being in public spaces. When in public, they may avoid touching doorknobs, avoid using public restrooms, and constantly think about their hands being clean. Sometimes even washing their hands once may not ease their fears, and they engage in more repetitive hand sanitizing behaviors. It is not about hygiene, it is about the fear. I have dealt with contamination OCD for most of my life. When coming in from public spaces, I would wash my hands 3 or 4 times until I felt all the germs were washed away. I had a thought cycle that if I didn't wash my hands thoroughly and change my clothes, all the germs would spread in my home and onto others, and my whole family would get sick. Going through a pandemic did not help the anxiety I had around germs. It amplified my fears and continued for years after that. I would even have to make sure others in the family would follow the same routines, like washing their hands and changing their clothes from the public. I would even go as far as to sanitize the door handles of the home. When we experience OCD, our brains are in a constant fear cycle where you think you're in danger and need to do something to avoid that danger. The good news is that OCD is treatable. You can rewire your mind and get past the fear cycle and reassure yourself that you are safe. A solution for resolving OCD is exposure and response prevention therapy. This is where you gradually expose yourself to your fears. So you would touch something you think is dirty, like a menu at a restaurant or a door handle, and stop yourself from sanitizing. Certain things you are scared to touch because you fear they are contaminated are the triggers. And the compulsions are the actions you do that you feel will stop the danger from happening. Exposure and response prevention therapy interrupts your usual routines, and it involves reteaching your brain that anxiety will go away on its own without needing to complete compulsive routines like changing your clothes after coming from the public. Coming to the realization that you will be okay and safe even if you do not follow through with your compulsive actions like changing your clothes from public is the intention of this type of therapy. Giving yourself reassurance and stopping yourself from always thinking the worst is the goal of exposing yourself to your fears. It's the obsessive thoughts that trigger the fears, which then leads to compulsive behaviors. The compulsions, like hand washing and changing into new clothes, are behaviors your mind is telling you to do to avoid catching a virus. These are just fear thoughts that lead to compulsive behaviors. The idea behind this exposure therapy is to face the fears that make you anxious. So if you are scared of germs, you may touch a doorknob you believe is dirty and contaminated, and then you avoid your usual behavior like using sanitizer after you touch the door. You believe by using sanitizer you will avoid getting sick. When you stop using sanitizer, over time it teaches you that what you feared did not actually happen, or if it does, it wasn't as bad as you imagined it. The idea is reducing your anxiety without the compulsive behavior. Having support groups can be very helpful in treating and managing fear of contamination. So you can gradually be able to calm your anxiety without the need for rituals. Instead of engaging in excessive hand washing, you can reassure yourself that washing your hands once is enough and learn to be okay with that. When I would do these thorough cleaning rituals of washing and sanitizing, it was very mentally exhausting, and I would feel like if I skipped a certain step, it would mean catching a contagious virus that would be terrible. I found myself catastrophizing, which is thinking the worst case scenario about germs and public places. If you or someone you know is facing fears of contamination, you are not alone. It is a real fear and there is help for it. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to the channel for more content on mental health and wellness. And if you have experienced fears and contamination, leave a comment below, as your story can help others facing similar fears. Thank you for watching and take care of yourself.